Welcome back. So today we're going to talk about the dreaded morning anxiety. Two different times of the day were really rough for me, and that was primarily in the evening or nighttime. And then the mornings are really, really bad. That's not to say that I didn't have bad moments throughout the day or I couldn't have a really rough afternoon. That's not what I'm saying. But if I had to pick two really, really bad times, were pretty much on a daily basis for years, they were rough for me before I started to get better. That would be nighttime, having the night anxiety, and then the morning anxiety. I'll talk a lot more about night anxiety in another video that I'll probably do either tomorrow or the next day. But today I just want to try to focus on the morning part. But I will say that our mornings a lot of times can get off to the wrong start because of what happened the night before. For me, I'm having panic attacks all throughout the night. My adrenaline's constantly going. Even in between panic attacks, it's like revving an engine. Your foot doesn't have to be all the way down on the gas, but it can just be revving that engine. So I'm not getting good quality sleep. I'm jolting awake. Maybe at best I get an hour or two. And then, every 2 to 3 days I would have to crash, and then I would sleep 12, 13, 14 hours. I would oversleep, and that's not good for you either. So it's like I couldn't win at the time. Anyways, that would lead to a lot of anxiety in the morning. Something else that I did a lot that I don't recommend is I would drink a lot of alcohol to numb my symptoms. And, that would make my mornings hellacious. I'm sure you've heard by now, I've used this term many times. It's something that other people have mentioned too, and it's called hangxiety. It's a hangover combined with having anxiety disorder. The dehydration, the after effects of drinking too much the night before, and then just the panic that comes with it, the fast heart rate, all the muscle tension, the chest pains, all the thoughts that come with that, your digestive issues. It is a nightmare the next morning. But it was something that I was hard-headed about. I didn't learn my lesson for a very long time, and when those symptoms would hit in the evening, I would just turn to drinking because that was the thing that made my symptoms stop the fastest. Eventually, I started to use things like Benadryl and stuff like that, which I wouldn't even recommend getting into a habit of having to use Benadryl to fall asleep, but I guess it's a better alternative than alcohol. But I would get caught up in that vicious cycle. So that would make my morning salacious. And I had two different scenarios that would kind of unfold in the morning, depending on the day and the time whenever I would experience this. In the beginning, especially when things were fresh and new, I just had my first panic attack, and then, my body just would not calm down. I was constantly in fight or flight mode. Even in between panic attacks, I was again revving that engine all throughout the day and throughout the night, and of course in the mornings. But in the beginning, it was so bad that right after I would open my eyes, no matter how much sleep I got, my heart rate would immediately start to race. We're talking I'm laying in bed, and if I'm not having a panic attack, my heart rate would start to jump up into the high 80s, the 90s, the low 100s. And that's just with me laying in bed. And, there's a lot of different reasons for this. Again, it can be because you didn't get a lot of sleep the night before, or it was just not good quality sleep. It could be because you drank a lot of alcohol the night before. It could be just because you're dehydrated this morning. But also, I just think it's, the body waking up and it's like, oh yeah, I remember, we're in danger, right? Maybe you got a bit of peace, or maybe your heart was able to calm down just enough whenever you were getting a little bit of rest at night. But you wake up and your body's like, oh yeah, I remember yesterday we were in fight or flight all day. And it's like in a habit of doing that. So in the beginning, especially those first few months, whenever I would open my eyes in the morning, my heart rate would instantly just start to jump up. And then, whether it got into, the hundreds or the, 130s, 140s was depending on if I was going to take the bait and then start to panic, which happened a lot. I'd be like, oh my God, my heart's starting to beat fast. I'm not even doing nothing. I'm laying down. There's got to be something wrong with my heart. And in the beginning, I didn't really have very much acceptance. I didn't really trust what, the doctor told me, the initial visit that I had, because I went and got the EKG and the blood work, and he borderline laughed at me and said, there's like zero chance there's anything wrong with your heart. And, I was like, okay, cool, whatever. Went back, I would still have symptoms. So I didn't have good acceptance. So I was still struggling with this heart anxiety, especially in the morning. But it would usually start with a faster than normal heart rate. And then if I took the bait, and like I often did, I would get worried about my heart rate. I'd start checking, and I would obsessively do this. And then it would spiral, and then it turns out I'm having 140, 150, 160, and I'm in full panic mode. So if I woke up with anxiety right from the get-go, opening my eyes, it often led to panic and panic attacks and stuff like that. And then I would go into that, laying in bed, huffing and puffing. Should I go to the ER? Oh my God, I gotta go to work. I didn't get any sleep, and now I'm in panic mode. I can't imagine driving to work. So I'm trying to get my crap together. Instantly something that would happen whenever I would start to have these panic attacks, which is so inconvenient. And this is like one of the worst things, guys. You know, you're having chest pains, your heart is racing, you can tell your blood pressure's high, your mind's going 100 miles an hour, you've got numbness and tingling, all the symptoms of a heart attack if you're to look them up. And all of a sudden you feel that stuff in your stomach just start to move around. Your stomach starts to growl and cramp up, and you know, now you realize, oh my God, I have to go sit on the toilet. And this is what would happen to me. I'd be sweating bullets. You know what I mean? Like just sweating, having hot flashes, chest hurting, vitals through the roof, and I'm having to sit on the toilet and have diarrhea. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, how horrible would it be right now to have a heart attack and to pass out or faint while I'm having to sit on the toilet? And it wasn't often just one time going and then I was good. No, it was one of those deals where I would go, I'd wipe, I'd flush, TMI, but I'm just trying to get you guys to see what would happen. And then my stomach would hurt so bad. I knew that if I got up and got off the toilet and went into my bedroom, I was just gonna have to walk right back and go again. So it was one of these like where I had to go like 4 rounds because my body would turn whatever food was in my digestive system into mush. And I'm just here to tell you, digestion is not a priority whenever you are very, very anxious, especially if you're having a panic attack. All right, we've heard the expression, man, you scared the shit out of me. Okay. Our body is trying to get rid of any waste down there so I can fight or run away more effectively. I mean, I've already got the heart pumping all the oxygen around my body faster. I got my vitals up. I got my tension. I've got the nerves and everything like this so I can spring into action. Now my body's trying to do me another solid and turn everything solid into liquid down here. And that way I can fight or run away. So that's what's happening. Digestion is not a priority. Blood flow isn't great down here. And also, you know, FYI, blood flow is more concentrated to our central most vital organs and muscles whenever we are panicking. So that's why a lot of times I would deal with numbness and tingling in my hands and my fingers and my extremities and my feet. Sometimes, you know, it could be colder temperatures in your hands and feet. So numbness, tingling can happen pretty much anywhere on the body, but your face, your fingers, your hands, you know, the lower parts of your arms, lower parts of your legs, I would experience that, my feet. I didn't like that feeling, of course. And again, you look up heart attack symptoms, that's gonna be one of them. Not trying to scare you. All of you that are watching this video, you already know that anyways. And then I would always have like left arm pain and things like that. So I just felt like I was having a heart attack for the first couple hours of the day. And then, you know, I would try to drink some fluids. Finally, I wasn't having to use the bathroom. I got all that out of my system. Any trapped air or gas, that was gone. I would hopefully gather myself just enough to get in the car and try to get to work. Now, whenever I first started having all these panic attacks, I was working in my hometown at the same job that I got the promotion, and I had to move and do a lot of travel. So I only had to drive, let's say, about like 4 miles to get to work. So it wasn't horrible. And then once I got to work, I tried my hardest to get busy. I had my coworkers or my friends and everything like that. So usually don't get me wrong, I would still have bad moments and symptoms all throughout the day. But I was able to talk and to get really busy with my work. And sometimes these things would gradually start to wear off, thankfully. And then they would ramp up when I would get off of work, and then I'd have a horrible night, and then I'd have a horrible morning again. But as time went on, like I got my promotion and I had to move, and then I had to start commuting. It was like a 40-minute drive to work and 40-minute obviously drive back. And I had really, really bad anxiety driving. So I would have a horrible morning like that with the diarrhea, the chest pains, all the symptoms that I just discussed, the panic attacks. And now I'm having to get into the car, and I have anticipatory anxiety about my trip to work, and I have to drive 40 minutes with this crap, thinking that I'm gonna die the entire way. And you know, it's just nothing but woods between my house at the time and the sporting goods store, you know, the sport store. So I had to drive for 40 freaking minutes, and that was hellacious. And I was always afraid I was going to have a heart attack on the way, or I was going to faint or crash into the woods, and it was going to be too late by the time somebody drove by and found me, because I was driving super early in the morning. I was afraid that maybe I would crash into somebody else, have a seizure or stroke or heart attack on the way. And then, I'd get to work, and it would be even harder to calm down because I had panicked the entire way to work. But eventually, again, I would try to get distracted, get busy in my work, talk with my coworkers and employees at the time. And then, hopefully, towards the middle of the day, I was able to somewhat. My best moments are probably a nightmare for some people that have never experienced anxiety. Even me, like in the middle of the day when I'm fully distracted or deep in my work, somebody else that never experienced that feeling of just kind of the engine being revved up a little bit but not panicky would be like, oh my God, what is this? Why do I feel like that? Some of those moments are my best moments, especially the first few months to the first year and a half or so of dealing with anxiety, guys. So that's what that was like. Something else that I dealt with, because I dealt with a lot of different things on and off. I'd go through these cycles. I mentioned the gas, like in the morning waking up, I would just have trapped air and trapped gas. You got to remember, our bodies produce a lot of things more whenever we have anxiety. Acid is one of them, gas is one of them. So the gas buildup, I would have that at night. It would take me 3 hours to get that gas to kind of work its way out. I know, again, TMI. Back pain was another one, man. It felt like I was like laying on bricks, a pile of bricks, not just like a paved road or anything. I'm talking like a pile of bricks, and I'm like laying on top like a sacrifice. That's what it felt like in the morning whenever I'd wake up, and it would take me forever to stretch and to get that back pain to kind of come out, because we deal with a lot of muscle tension. And also something that I think led to this is I had really, really bad nightmares and everything like that, and I think I would get really stiff and tense whenever I would have those. And I'll get into what it was like at night, but I'd wake up sweating, with some of these nightmares that I would have. But yeah, that was the first scenario where I'd wake up in a panic and I would just go into all these symptoms. The second scenario, which I thought I mentioned this earlier, but I haven't yet, I would wake up not necessarily in full panic, but I'd wake up just kind of looking for the symptoms. Now, this would happen as time went on, and I was starting to maybe get a little bit more acceptance and everything like that, maybe getting a little bit better sleep. I would wake up, and then things might be okay for a little bit, and then I would sabotage the moment. I would self-sabotage. I'd start body scanning. Okay, where's that chest pain? Oh, there it is. Dang it. I thought I might not have that this morning. Dang it. We look for things, we're scanning, and it's out of habit. We're not trying, to screw our day up. It might seem like that if we start looking at our behaviors and what we do, but we aren't. We're just doing what's habitual for us, and we're trying to protect ourselves, and, we're trying to look for things that were concerning us yesterday, and we'll find them, even if they weren't there, right? So sometimes our body might give us a break when we first wake up and get a few minutes, or maybe you'd get a few hours. Maybe a few minutes would turn into a few hours of peace before things would rev up. But you're body scanning and you're looking for things, and you self-sabotage. Something that I encourage people to do that I coach, I encourage them to get out of bed very quickly in the morning. Don't just sit there looking for things and thinking about your life. I call it sitting in your own filth. We're just thinking about work, thinking about life. Where are the symptoms? There they are. Dang it, I got to drive to work. I got to do this. Just get up and have a set of things that you do in the morning. And I know this is hard to establish when morning can be one of the roughest times for us, but that means that we need some type of structure. But getting out of bed and stop scanning and to stop looking for symptoms could be huge for a lot of you guys. It really could change the momentum of your mornings. And I'm telling you, I did this all the time. Some of you are waking up in the morning like me. You were getting on your phone. Maybe you're going to Facebook groups. Maybe you're watching videos. Maybe you're getting on Reddit. Maybe you're doing some Google research on your symptoms. Instead of just getting up and getting into your day and having a few things that I've talked about on this channel many times that you can have as part of your morning routine. Getting up, hydrating, going for a walk, doing a light workout. If you eat breakfast, make sure that breakfast is healthy. Having a mindfulness period, getting a cold shower in, doing a little bit of meditation, a little bit of journaling, visualizing how your day is going to go. Maybe a moment of gratitude. If you're religious, having some prayer and some Bible study. Having those things that if you add all that up, that could be 45 minutes. You need that in the morning, and yeah, it's going to be a little bit difficult when you have these symptoms, but you will adjust, and your subconscious will adjust. It's better than just laying in the bed at the mercy of these symptoms, or, you know, laying in bed looking for them and then they pop up and then now you're having to deal with that. So either I would wake up and straight up panic, or I'd wake up and then I would self-sabotage. But yeah, mornings are by far the worst. I had any symptom you could imagine, I would have them. Just a really, really terrible time for me. Also, I've, you know, I'm not trying to play doctor or neuroscientist or anything like that, but I believe you can do your own research on this, but I believe that we have a cortisol spike in the mornings as well. It spikes right after we wake up, and that can also lead to some extra anxiety and stress. So that could be something that's happening as well. So if you have anxiety in the morning, it's very, very normal. Anxiety at night, anxiety in the morning is usually when people have it the worst. And, you know, for a lot of us, if we're able to get up and then get to work or get busy with something, sometimes that can help ground us. You know, some days are just going to be crap all the way through. I don't want you guys to get the idea that afternoons for me were just peachy, because they weren't. It was just that mornings and nights were hell, like a freaking hell. So try to take the advice that I gave you about finding a handful of things to do in the morning and to get out of bed quickly. Don't get on your phone. You know, don't lay in your own filth. Don't body scan. Don't look for symptoms as much of a habit. You know, I know it's a habit. You're going to have to make a tremendous amount of conscious effort to not do it. Make it a reminder the night before. When I wake up tomorrow, I'm not going to look for symptoms. I'm just going to get up and I'm going to make sure that I go ahead and hydrate, because this is whenever I'm the most dehydrated. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to do some visualization on how my day is going to go. I'm going to visualize not only my day, but my life without anxiety. I'm going to go through some affirmations. I'm really going to focus on gratitude for the things and the blessings that I do have in my life. I'm going to go through a 5-minute meditation to get started. Maybe eventually you build on that. I'm going to do 15 minutes of a little HIIT workout, just enough to sweat, and I'm going to hit it with a cold shower before I get in the car and I drive to work. I'm telling you, if you start doing that, as difficult as it might seem, because mornings can be rough, if you start making an effort to do that, I'm telling you, within a few weeks, things are going to start to turn around in the mornings for you. Are you going to make that change? Okay, are you going to make that change? You know, and if you want more help with this, if you want a detailed routine that you can use in the mornings, and it's not just for the morning, it covers your entire day. I have that in my course, ELITE Anxiety Bootcamp. Not to mention 100 videos that are going to take you step by step through what I did to overcome my panic disorder, my health anxiety, my generalized anxiety disorder. You know, I had that for 5 years before I started putting all this together. But I'm telling you, once you get these things going, momentum will be on your side, and it does get easier. And you can make some big breakthroughs, okay? You don't have to keep living this way. Your mornings don't have to continue to be like this. Your evenings don't, your life doesn't have to continue to be like this. You can break free from anxiety. Trust me, if I did it, you know, and whenever my stuff was as dark as it was, I'm telling you, you can. I promise you, you can, okay? So check out that course. That's gonna be down below in the description and in the first pinned comment. I have coaching information down there. I know I mention that every once in a while in my videos, but I do offer coaching if anybody's interested in that. Please subscribe if you're new, guys, and I will talk to you soon. All right, bye.